Moving on.
Well, Uncle Doug,
Uncle Dan.
when I was doing the research for the Satan thing that I did earlier, I went down a whole bunch of rabbit holes, but what I really landed on was that there's a necessity for those of us who have left religion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just give up on sort of dogma and concepts and like the idea of a God. You don't just give up on God when you let go of religion. You give up on Satan too.
Right. You must.
And maybe that's even harder than letting go of God for some people.
Yeah.
Because Satan's the one that seems to have more sort of direct influence in your life if you were raised in part the way you and I were, or the way a lot of very fundamentalist evangelical types
Right.
Are raised.
I think that goes to. I agree completely, and I think it's partly because the motivations or tactics of God are very inscrutable. They're hard to know.
Yeah.
They're mysterious. They're occasional, but the motives of Satan are clear.
Right.
And his tactics are clear, and his effect in your life is clear.
Which is just to fuck you up.
Just to mess with you.
Which is amazing. And he is this... I don't know. So let's talk about how to get rid of Satan. Now, talk to me a little bit about who Satan was to you when you were a believer. Maybe as a child, maybe as an older believer. Who was that person?
Well, as we mentioned earlier in the show, in the Mormon dogma, Satan is, like all deities, is a man.
Yeah,
he's a man of flesh and blood,
right?
That would look a lot like us if we saw him.
Yeah,
and so once I was old enough to conceptualize anything about religion. God was certainly, human-like, but exalted and distant, but Satan was real, and he was a guy, and he knew who I was, and he wanted to mess with me.
Huh?
Knowing that you have an enemy, someone who doesn't like you, but who's powerful beyond imagination.
That's kind of a messed up thing right there to tell a kid.
I agree completely.
You have an enemy.
Yeah.
You're 8. You have an enemy.
Yeah.
Who's trying to fuck with your entire forever.
He knows your name. He knows your weaknesses.
He knows where you live.
He doesn't sleep.
And every now and then he tickles your cock and your bum, and then you feel like you have to do a thing, and he ruins your life.
Yep. And from the wellspring of Satan is obviously in religion where all guilt comes from.
Yeah.
Right? He is the constant malevolency that you must live with, that if you occasionally stray into, that is where your guilt resides.
It's amazing. When I was a kid, I was, really quite young. I couldn't tell you how young I was, but, 8 or below. And I went over to my friend Brian's house. He lived in the neighborhood. And I saw his bike, and I took it.
I thought the story was going in a different direction.
Nope.
Right.
His bicycle, and I took it.
Yeah.
And I rode it around the block. That was it. And then I brought it back to his house, and he was there as I was pulling up, and I was like, I literally said, "The devil made me do it."
No way.
This was my excuse. But here's the thing. I don't know why I did it. When I was then, I had no idea why I did it.
Right.
So that was as plausible an explanation as anything to me. Because the devil makes so much sense when you see how fucked up people are.
Right.
And I don't mean fucked up in the I'm not talking about people who have mental illness or whatever. I'm talking about everyday average people, you and me. Sometimes we know we shouldn't do a thing.
Right.
Even as grown people with strong moral compasses, every now and then you just fucking do the wrong thing.
And that's where guilt comes into play as a positive force. Guilt can, if you do something bad, you call someone a name, you know what I mean? Like you see the effect it has on somebody, and you feel guilty, that is a positive. That's a good thing. And the danger that Satan represents is the corruption of guilt and the misapplication of guilt to things that don't matter. It was good that you saw your friend and you realized, like, oh, I took something that wasn't his.
That wasn't mine, yeah.
It wasn't yours. And you felt like, oh, shit, I've got to cover for myself because I did something wrong.
Right.
And Satan's the perfect cover.
And I felt terrible. Here's the thing. I'm not sure I'm going to go with you on this whole guilt is good thing.
Oh.
Because I think a sense of responsibility is good.
Sure.
I feel like guilt is kind of like shovel and smoke. Because a person can just sit there in their feelings of guilt and still not take responsibility, still not do anything with it.
That's a fair point.
And so I don't, because fuck guilt. I don't like shame. I don't like guilt. I don't like any of those things. I like responsibility though.
Right.
And I like sort of taking stock of oneself and owning the shit that you've done and making it right in whatever way you can figure out to do. But maybe we're talking about the same thing.
I think we're talking about the same thing.
Just using different words.
Yeah, I think it's when I say the misapplication of guilt, I mean for like masturbation.
Right.
Or, having an impure thought about someone that you are attracted to.
Oh my God. Can I just tell you that to this day, there is something in me, though I have cognated the shit out of this, that still doesn't feel okay about masturbating. Most of me is great about it. And Lord knows I do plenty of it.
Right.
But there's something in me that still feels bad.
Right.
What the fuck?
What the actual fuck?
Honestly, we as humans have enough shit going on. We don't need to be made to feel bad about something as stupid as masturbation.
Totally.
But we do.
Yeah.
And that is a gift that keeps on giving. And I think that's part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because you and I have long since left religion.
Yeah.
And yet religion doesn't leave us.
Right.
It's still in there, and Satan is still plaguing us, but not in the way he used to. Like now it's not like, oh no, there's this bad guy tempting me. I think for a lot of people, and I've heard this from listeners, to Thank God I'm Atheist, Satan's still there. They're still afraid of Satan.
Right.
Like, thankfully Mormonism isn't like Satan's going to burn your soul, hellfire and damnation stuff. Some people, it very much is, and that's very, very terrifying. And then they leave the religion, but this shadow of this scary, scary beast that they've believed in since they were children, that's been pounded into their heads,
right,
still there.
See, maybe that's the fundamental danger of it, is that it's probably evolutionary that we fear danger, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
And you always, as a child, you were always, it was pretty easy to leave behind the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus, but it took a lot longer to leave behind the clown under your bed or the monster in your closet.
Right.
And that's probably, that makes sense to a certain degree. You should, every time the grass rustles when you're walking past it, you should assume there's a predator there.
Right.
Because if there's not, no problem. But if there is, you might survive it.
Right. And that's kind of how we're genetically programmed.
Exactly. So to take that fear that is natural and put something unnatural in there,
attach it to
a mythical being, is dangerous and damaging
and mean. It's
That's
just
really mean.
Fucking mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think it's meant to be mean. Like I don't think my parents were doing it to be mean. They didn't even talk about Satan. How did it get in?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just so present in the zeitgeist of Mormonism, of Christianity, of whatever,
right,
that it's just there. Like, then these evangelicals down in the South have these hell houses or whatever. Yep. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, nieces and nephews out there in listener land, if you still have Satan issues, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, forgive yourself, because this shit is deep, and the tendrils of the Satan belief run much deeper than those of God belief.
Well, and let's you mentioned that not everyone's doing it in a mean-spirited way.
Sure.
And surely that's true. But there are many who are.
That's true.
And the Catholic Church's buggery problem was perpetuated over if not hundreds of years, then at least decades, because the church the priests would use the fear of sin, guilt, and Satan to keep these kids quiet.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can apply that to a million different situations that religious people have done terrible things and used, the devil to keep people quiet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what we're talking about is the greatest mechanism of control
Yeah.
that any religion has over their adherents.
Right. Not God, but the devil.
It's not God.
Yeah.
Like, literally, saying nice things keeps 0 people in a pew.
Don't tell anybody and you'll get blessings. Doesn't get people to stay quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
But what keeps people coming back week after week is you're bad.
Right.
You're still doing bad things because this Satan person is going to get you, and I'm the only one who can save you.
Yep.
It's a really messed up system.
It is and it like all kind of habits or cultural memes that we've developed, it clearly developed as a system of control because it's so effective.
Yeah.
And every religion has a form of it because it's so effective. You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
Yep.
You look at it, it's kind of amazing. I've looked at myself in my 20s, in my teens. I mean, I left the Mormonism officially around 19 or 20, but well into my 20s, I hadn't processed a lot of it, and it was still very, very present for me. Well, I mean, I didn't start really drinking until my late 20s, early 30s, and I had no issue with it other than it had just been drummed into my mind that it wasn't okay, and I never thought about it. And I think that's part of the key for me. And I'm going to ask you about what keys you might have for getting rid of this stuff. But for me, I had to go through piece by piece everything. I had to catch myself, which is tricky because it's very subtle. It's all in sort of the back of your mind. All of these phobias that have been built into you by your religion. But you have to go piece by piece, and you have to look at it. You have to look directly at it and say, wait, seriously, is playing with my penis, my own body, is that bad? No, I don't think it's bad. Well, why am I feeling bad? And you have to go through some serious thought before you're going to get anywhere near being okay with any of this stuff. At least it was for me. I was a very serious believer, though.
Yeah.
And
As
so
was I. Yeah.
And so, yeah, you and I are the same in that way. I think a lot of people, I talked to my wife about it, and I was like, was Satan real for you? And she was like, well, it was a concept.
Yeah.
And I was like, were you afraid of Satan? Well, I mean, it was supposed, but she wasn't a serious believer in any of it. She just sort of had this, it's what you do sort of belief.
Yeah.
But I had a take it to heart belief. And I think when that happens, boy, getting rid of this stuff, I had to go piece by piece. I had to go through each little thing. Is drinking a sin? Well, I mean, I didn't think that drinking was a sin, but I hadn't looked at it yet.
Right.
I hadn't sat down with myself and gone, why are you not drinking?
Right.
Oh, is it because you actually still have some of the vestiges of this old belief coursing in you somewhere? And I had to find that little tendril of belief and draw it out of myself.
Yep.
It's hard.
It's hard, and it's hard too because as you go through that process on a personal level, because it's such a personal journey to leave religion.
Yeah.
And your hang-ups will be sex and masturbation, alcohol, free thought, not going to church on Sundays, all of these obstacles. Mm-hmm. But you are progressing down that path yourself while you're probably diverging from friends and family.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guilt that I faced, that was Satan-driven guilt when I'd left was, I still had family who were Mormons. So I still had cousins, nieces, nephews, and friends who were coming home from their missions or had kids that were getting blessed or baptized.
Right.
And I went from being, there every Sunday to there very seldom and not stepping into the rituals like I used to when I was an active religious person. So you're not only stepping away from the chasm between you and your friends and family as you kind of overcome these stupid hangups,
Yeah.
it broadens so quickly, and that was the hardest part for me, was being public about my, I wouldn't feel guilty anymore about having a drink. When I started drinking, I loved it. I realized that there were lines you could cross, and I wish I'd been more well educated.
Right.
But I was finding my way. But then I would go over to my parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner, and the one time I brought a bottle of wine and kind of put it in their face, it was the thing, and it ruined dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I felt terrible, and I felt guilty, and I was just like, so it's a struggle to kind of, like you said, pull those tendrils out of your own brain. But then how do you face your friends and family? And it's a personal journey.
Especially knowing that they believe Satan fucking got you.
Exactly. You know what they think about you because you used to think that about other people.
Right. Again, Satan's actually trying to fuck with you through them.
And the pity and the sorrow they feel in their face, they demonstrate in their faces.
Oh my God.
You're like, oh God, I used to look that way at my friends when I found out they would drink. When I found out
that
this
is a
girl
delightful moment when you realize what a prick you were.
Totally.
As a believer, and you go, oh shit, I said that to somebody else.
I judged a girl who I found out had crossed a line with a boyfriend or something like that, and it's just like, oh, and you feel guilty about that.
Yep. That's the thing where, like, yeah, there are a few people that I should probably like track them down and be like, hey, guess what? I was a jerk to you.
I have done that.
I thought I was being nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've done that to I was a holier than thou prick in high school, and I had friends who didn't follow that path, and I was less than good to them.
Yeah.
And over time, I've Facebook, we all went through that spasm when Facebook came out.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. You were drinking in high school, and I treated you like shit and judged you, and I feel really badly about that. And they're like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's all good. Let's get a drink.
Yeah, exactly. And that's nice. You get a new drinking buddy.
Yep.
Everything's great. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot more to this conversation. This is a long term thing. Maybe we'll bring Paige in on it at some point. But I do want to open this up to our listeners because if you guys, Doug and I have our own experiences with Satan and with sort of extracting Satan from our experience of life. Mm-hmm. But you guys have had your own thing, and so we'd love to hear from you. You can write to us howto@howtoheretic.com, or tweet at Mark, which won't do any good because he's buried right now. The Canadians have him, and I don't think they're giving him back.
Let's hope. One can dream.
Yeah. But write into us, or go to the Facebook page and send me a message on the How to Heretic Facebook page. We just want to hear where you guys are coming from with your experience of Satan, because it's a real. The more I think about it, the more I think that's the real experience of most religions.
Yeah.
Is the enemy,
the fear of hell.
This fake enemy,
rather than the desire for heaven.
And how fucked up is it that you have a scapegoat to blame all this bad shit on, but you don't get to blame him.
No,
you have to blame yourself.
Right.
But there's somebody actively trying to make you fuck up all the time.
Right.
It's the worst.
And how hard would it be to be Satan? You have 3.5 billion years of evolution on your side, trying to get some 14-year-old kid to masturbate.
Yeah, it's easy.
I'm going to win that one 10 times out of 10.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, except with your brother, who for whatever reason didn't masturbate as a young person, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Nieces and nephews, friends and family. I'm just going to testify. There's no Satan, man. There's nobody bad out there.
Amen, brother.
There are bad people. And there's not even bad people. You know what there are? There are people who do bad things.
Correct.
And that's everybody.
Right.
And the best you can do is try to do fewer and fewer of those bad things and make amends when you fuck up.
I said this to you earlier when we were chatting. It's empowering to me. It was always empowering to let go of this perfect being that I was trying to aspire to, and let go of this perfect malevolency that I was trying to run from, and realize that I am, for good or for ill, However sloppy I am at it, I am the master of my own fate to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Certainly more than I thought I was as a religious person.
It's all your fault,
Yep.
and you get to take all the credit.
When I do something great, I take credit. When I fuck up, I got to fix it.
And we all do it.
Yep.
And you know what? And yeah, literally, it's just, that's all there is. Nobody's trying to fuck with you. Nobody's trying to ruin your life. Nobody's trying to take you to hell.
No.
So go out there and enjoy your lives. And maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Goodbye.